Whoa, I didn't see you there. So I'll introduce myself. My name is Marco Rojas. I work for the Annapolis Maritime Museum and Park. And today I will be teaching you about, well, one, what a watershed is and the impact humans have on the environment. How I will be doing that? Well, I will be showing you a demonstration of the watershed model. But before we dive into the watershed model, let's look at this map. Now this is a map, but it's not just any map. Okay, this is a map of the Chesapeake Bay watershed. Now before I look at the map, I have a question for you. My question is, what is a watershed? What is a watershed? Now a lot of times when I ask this question, the kids look at me and they say, Marco, a watershed is a shed with water. And I say, no, no it is not, or at least the watershed I'm talking about, that is not the case. So what is a watershed? Well, a watershed, simply put, is an area of land that contains the rivers and streams that all flow to the same body of water or larger body of water. Okay, so think of a watershed, which we all live in one. Think of a watershed as a tub, or it's kind of like a tub. Because remember, when a tub is filled with water and you drain the water out of the tub, all of the water flows to one central point. Okay, the same thing happens in nature. So let's look at the map. So this is a map of the Chesapeake Bay watershed. Now keep in mind, there are 6 states, okay, 6 states in the Chesapeake Bay watershed. So let's name these 6 states. Number 1, we have Maryland, Virginia, West Virginia, Delaware, Pennsylvania, and then last but not least, New York way up there. And of course, there's Washington, D.C. in the watershed, but that is not a state, okay? So 6 states in the Chesapeake Bay watershed. I didn't say 4, nor did I say 5, I said 6, okay? 6, all right? So remember, I said all of these states are in the Chesapeake Bay watershed, and think of all the different tributaries, all the different rivers and streams that flow through all these different states. Now remember, all the water flows down these different states and funnels, okay, acts like a funnel, makes their way to the Chesapeake Bay, and then from the Chesapeake Bay to the Atlantic Ocean down here. So think about all the trash, all the different pollutants that are created in these different states that flow in the water and flow down to the Chesapeake Bay. So that is an accumulation of a lot of trash, okay, building up in the bay. And of course, that is not good. That affects the animals in a negative way. And so we're done talking about the map. Now let's look at the Chesapeake Bay watershed model, okay? And today I'll be demonstrating basically how I teach the watershed model. This watershed model is amazing because it allows you to understand what a watershed is, which we talked about with the map, but also the impact humans have on the environment, okay? So I have to warn you, with me, you have to use your imagination. That's one thing I'm pretty good at, all right? So, boom, imagination station. Okay, so right here, we have a large piece of land. There's not a lot going on. Well, really, there's nothing going on yet, that is. So we have a large piece of land. And before you know it, more and more people come by and they see this land and they say, wow, this is a glorious piece of land. This would be a great place to build a town or a city. Okay? So, before you know it, more and more people arrive to this land and they build themselves a farmhouse and a barn. All right, and what is a farm without animals, am I right? So, we'll add some animals. We have all these different toy animals which we'll place down. Normally, I would assign a name to each animal, or at least allow the kids to name the animals. But just for the sake of time, I won't do that for today. But I will name one animal, okay? Oops. This animal that I will name is the animal I normally always pick out, okay? This is a pig, all right? His name is Chris. Chris P. Bacon is his government name, okay? Here to be completely honest, okay? Now, we have a farm from animals, and they have a tractor. Now, this tractor isn't green, but it's a tractor nonetheless. Place that down. Perfect. Okay, so we built a farm, okay, and we need crops and stuff like that so we can eat. But we need to build a lot more things, okay, because more and more people are coming over and need places to live. So next up we have truck, okay, which will be at the construction site. So we have a construction site, and from the construction site, they build a factory because the people need a place to work, right? So we build a factory right over here. We build bridges. And people need a place to stay, so they build some homes. So we have a nice neighborhood right over here. Stay. All right, wonderful. The city's becoming more and more developed. And it appears our homeowners have some pets. So they have a bunny rabbit, this one right here, and they have a dog. Now this dog, we'll see if you can see it. As you can see here, this dog is probably the same size or larger than the house itself. Don't ask me how. I know you probably have questions that I just don't have an answer to, okay? Maybe they fell in a vat of toxic waste. Maybe they ate something like those mushrooms from Mario, and it makes them grow big. Maybe, I don't know. But remember, we're using our imagination, okay? So keep that in mind. So this dog is ginormous, but he's not red, so we can't call him Clifford. Okay, so we'll just call him Cliff. That works for me. Hopefully it works for you as well. So we have our neighborhood, we have our construction site, we have our factory, and we have our farm, okay? And of course the bridges are placed down so people can go from the different places in the town. Perfect. So I'll direct your attention to the farm. So at this moment in time, we'll talk about some things farmers might use that could impact the environment in a negative way. Now, of course, this is probably the worst case scenario because if there was going to be anyone in the town that is environmentally friendly, it would be the farmer because they need the environment to make a living, and so they really do care about the environment and the impact they have on it. So, of course, we have a lot of farm animals, and I'm just going to be frank with you. When you gotta go, you gotta go. So, of course, animals poop. So, these chocolate sprinkles will be the poop. And we have quite a bit of animals, so we have quite a bit of droppings. All right, we have that. Probably going to be some dirt. This will represent the dirt. Now, there is something farmers put on the crops so the bugs don't eat it all. And if you said pesticides, you are correct. So this will represent pesticides. What it is, it's just crushed goldfish. You have some pesticides on the crops. The green dye will symbolize fertilizer. Place the fertilizer down. All right. And then next, this will be trash, okay? Now, as you can see, I just spread the trash all around the town. But I was really focusing on the farm. So how did the trash make its way to the neighborhood and the factory and in the water? How did that happen exactly? Well, it didn't rain yet, so what transported the trash to these different areas? Well, wind, okay, that happens in real life. Okay, so the wind will pick up the trash that's on the ground and it will transport it to different places. Okay, that's why it's very important to pick up trash that you see on the ground. All right, so we have pesticides, we have the fertilizer, we have poop, we have dirt at the farm, we have trash. Now I will direct your attention to the construction site. So what are some things that you would see on a construction site that might be harmful to the environment? So remember, they're building. So a lot of times they're digging into the ground, so you have a lot of excess dirt, okay? So we'll add a lot of dirt right over here. Also, perhaps some of the builders were on a lunch break and they were eating some, let's say, nacho Doritos, and they forgot to put away the wrapper, okay, in the trash. So we have trash at the construction site. So I'll just leave it at that. We have trash and we have a lot of dirt, okay? Next up, I'll look at the factory. So what are some things that a factory might use that could pollute the environment? Well, maybe oil, okay? So normally with the oil, I would use the yellow dye, but today, I'll use the red dye, okay? So it's probably kind of hard to see from there, but it appears the factory has a tube, okay, sticking out of the factory, and the tube goes underground, and then so the tube goes underground and is right next to a stream. So the oil that goes through the tube comes out the other side, right into the stream. It's a nearby stream, and the stream makes its way to the bay. So that is a big problem, okay, which we'll talk about and see once it rains, okay? So remember, the oil from the factory. Another thing is the factory, a lot of trash. I'll leave it like that, okay? So next is the neighborhood. So what are some things that people might use on their lawn, or what are some things people do that might harm the environment? Okay, so what are some things people might put or place on the lawn? Remember, fertilizer, okay? A lot of people put fertilizer on the lawn. Too much fertilizer is not good, okay? So we'll add the green dye to represent fertilizer. Another thing that I see, and I'm sure you have seen it too, is that people wash their cars on the driveways. Have you ever seen that before? So this blue dye will represent the soap that they use when they clean their vehicle. Remember, the red represents oil, and what happens a lot of times with the cars, that the car is leaking oil, so I'll place them on the driveway, and I will also add some oil to the roads. All right, so we have oil, we have soap, we have fertilizer. Remember, we talked about some pets, ginormous pets at that. So there's going to be some pretty big droppings. Oof. And then we'll add some trash as well. And there might be some dirt. So right here on this mountain, it seems they were cutting down trees. Because you see this? It's all dirt now, okay? So when it rains, the water is going to rush down this hill or mountain, and it's going to cause a lot of erosion. And because there's no plants in that area, the water is not going to be able to seep into the ground quick enough, okay? It's not going to be able to be absorbed quick enough. So we're going to see how that impacts the environment as well. All right, so we have all the different pollutants on this town. We have some from the farm, from the neighborhood, from the construction site, and of course the factory. So now it's time for some rain. So normally how I do this is I grab my spray bottle and I say I need some help. So hopefully you'd like to help me do that. So I'll be spraying some water, but this is just a light drizzle. So all you need to do is this, back and forth, just like this, back and forth. Yeah, just like that, okay. All right, so it's a light drizzle. So nothing too crazy yet, that is. All right, so that was just light drizzle, but we can already see the fertilizer, the oil, the poop, the dirt, making its way, well, the water, once it rains, it's flowing, okay? It's pushing, it's transporting all these different pollutants that was on the ground and it's taking it to different places. Some of the places taking it is to the sewer, okay, the stormwater drains, which remember, they don't actually filter the water in any way. That just helps with flooding. So this transports the water, where? To the bay, okay? And a lot of the pollutants made its way into the streams, and where is that going? You guessed it, the bay, okay? So now it's time for a really big downpour, okay? A big thunderstorm is coming. So this time, I need you to clap your hands for me, just like that. All right, just keep clapping, okay? All right, so it's a lot of rain, that's going to transport all these pollutants. Now remember, we talked about the oil coming from the factory. Boom, went to the nearby stream. From the stream, made its way to perhaps a river, and from the river to the bay. Okay, that is a big problem. All right, I think that's good. All right, so let's take a look at the water. How is the water looking? Yeah, it's not looking too good. Certainly not clear, okay? So I would describe the water as dark green, black, very murky. Looks pretty nasty. Looks like a recipe for disaster, if you ask me. All right, so this is a combination of a lot of different things, right? A lot of different pollutants that we added to the ground, to the lawns. I mean, there's a lot of dirt. There's a lot of fertilizer. There's a lot of pesticides, trash, you name it, okay? Poop. It's looking pretty nasty. So I asked you 2 questions, and answer these questions truthfully, okay? Would you want to swim in this water? Me personally, you can count me out, okay? No thank you. Would you want to perhaps fish in this water? Me personally, I'll pass on that one, because any type of fish that I get, that I catch, they're going to be unhealthy, right? Because you're living in a toxic environment, all right? So let's talk about this. All of these pollutants made their way into the water. So how does that affect the animals, all right, that live in the water? So it affects them in a lot of different ways. Well, one, we talked about a lot of dirt, okay? Or sediment is a term you can use. When there's a lot of dirt in the water, what happens is it actually clogs the fish's gills and they can suffocate and die. We certainly do not want that to happen. Another thing that happens is, remember, we have all this trash in the water. A lot of times animals mistaken it for another animal, okay? And they try to eat the trash, and of course, that's no good because they can choke on the trash, or the trash can get wrapped around their neck, messes up with their digestion. It is no good, okay? No good at all. Another thing, last thing I'll say, remember, we have a lot of fertilizer, a lot of dirt in the water. When you have a lot of fertilizer in the water, well, let's think. What does fertilizer do to lawn? Remember, it helps the grass grow. So when you have a lot of fertilizer in the water, it helps the algae in the water grow rapidly. That means they're growing and growing and growing and growing. Before you know it, there's all this algae on the top layer of the water, and it's becoming a big problem. And here's how. When the rays of the sun shine down on the water, it can't pass through this thick layer of algae and dirt. So the sunlight doesn't make its way to the bottom. And what's at the bottom, you might ask? Well, there are submerged aquatic vegetation, okay, which, in other words, plants, okay, or grasses in the bottom of the water. So remember, plants need sunlight in order to survive. So if they receive no sunlight, what happens to the plants? You guessed it, they die, unfortunately. Now, why would this be a problem? Well, plants help in a lot of different ways, but we'll talk about 3 main ways plants help. They provide habitat. Habitat, remember what that is? Yeah, you guessed it. A home, okay, a place to stay for animals. A place animals could stay. What else do they do? Oxygen, okay, they provide oxygen in the water. And last but not least, they provide food and other things, but yeah, we'll talk about those three. So when there's no plants in the water, there's less food, less oxygen, and you guessed it, less habitat, okay, less places to stay. So this is a big, big problem, okay. Another thing is when you have all this algae and the algae dies off, there's a bacteria that eats the algae and it consumes, so it sucks up the oxygen in the water. So in that body of water, or that area of water, there is no oxygen, or very, very little oxygen in the water. And the animals that can't swim away, they die, right? They run out of oxygen. So that's another big, big problem, which is affecting the bay today. So we talked about all the different ways humans can impact the environment. So what I want you to do is to think of ways we can help the environment. Okay, I'll just name a few, okay, but homework, I know, Marco's giving you homework, this is crazy. But yes, what I want you to do is think about ways you can help the environment. So some things I would think about is maybe trash, right? We can pick up trash, we can dispose of the trash properly, throw it away in the garbage can. Remember recyclables, put that away in the recycling bin. Reduce, reuse, recycle, 3 R's. Okay, I know you probably learned that in class. There's a lot of different things you can do, okay? Remember, you can make a difference. My voice got real high because I'm really enthusiastic about this, okay? Very passionate about it. Now, there's one thing I'd like to touch on before I bid you all adieu. So, there's actually something that kind of acts like a sponge in nature, okay? And that is a wetland area. Okay, marshland, grassland, those are wetlands. Okay, they are very, very important to the environment, and they help in a lot of different ways. How, you might ask? Well, I'm glad you did. So, wetlands act like sponges because, one, they help absorb a lot of the water. Okay, remember all this water flowing down? Well, it's going to absorb a lot of the water. So that's less excess water making its way to the bay. Also, it actually will filter a little bit of the pollutant particles, in the environment. So that's less pollution making its way into the bay. So that helps in a lot of different ways. And also, wetlands provide habitat for a lot of different animals, right? Biodiversity. Ooh, that's a good term. I want you to look that up. I'm not going to tell you. Biodiversity. I want you to look that up, all right? But it provides biodiversity, okay? A lot of different animals, right? Just like coral reefs. So wetlands and like grasses and plants help the environment in a lot of ways. So maybe another thing we could do is maybe plant grasses, wetlands, and trees that help absorb the water, help filter a little bit of the water, and also provide oxygen, habitat, food. So those are a couple ideas that I came up with, which I should like to share with you. But I want you to also think of other things you could do to help the environment today. All right, so that's your assignment that I'm bestowing upon you. So hopefully you learned something new. Hopefully you enjoyed it. And just stay safe, stay healthy, and have a great day. Bye.